Hey guys, hope everybody's doing well. Really appreciate you coming together and having a chat this afternoon. The purpose of this discussion is to share with other people what other organizations are being challenged with and how we can potentially assist those organizations by leveraging our technology to solve these real critical issues that revolve around COVID-19, the coronavirus. I know from talking to each of you that the solutions that we're putting in place, these were not preconceived solutions necessarily where the customer said, we need to do X, can you implement this for us? In most cases, and including the conversations that I'm having, there is more of a collaboration, a discussion about what is the challenge and how can LRS potentially help you to resolve the immediate challenge, meanwhile addressing some of these other issues like being able to realize a return on the investment, deploying the solution quickly, and extending the use of that technology going forward. In Springfield, Illinois, there's a teaching hospital there that's comprised of about 5 acute facilities, acute hospitals. And they stood up command centers for each hospital. So they have 5 mobile command centers and 1 like the master command center. So these total of 6 mobile locations. On a Thursday, they identified a requirement to, they're distributing the COVID-19 reports, how they're performing, what are the statistics around COVID-19 cases. And they're distributing those reports to email, to mobile devices via email. And the need was to print these reports so that they're posting them in various sections, either within the command center, around the command center, or these mobile testing facilities. So we learned of this requirement on a Monday. On a Friday morning, we architected the solution. And by Monday morning, we had a fully operational mobile printing solution, which has now been incorporated into their workflow. So now when they distribute these reports via email, they include the printer name of for each device. And when those jobs hit the mobile phone, they also land on the output tray of the printer automatically, where users are pulling them up. So really good use case that's in healthcare. I want to focus on this one instance in Spain. So this is a very large bank. It's one of the largest banks in Spain, right? Ava, can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, this is one of the top banks that basically commercial banking is growing really fast and is doing a profound digital transformation on the processes. Mm-hmm. And yeah, hit by this situation, putting many workers to work from home, and then suddenly they realize there are some things that they cannot access in the same way they used to do from the office, right?
Yeah, right.
So in particular, one example is central applications used to print directly into one printer, and then in particular, the situation is for the extracts that go to the post, the bank extracts that then go to be printed massively and posted. But then before they do that, they do some check. They print some samples in the office, in the printer, and check the quality is okay, or if they need to do any changes, they do it on the way, and then they say okay and send it to the post. But in this situation, there is no printer. The data comes, is prepared to come directly from the application to the printer. The data stream is something that you cannot view, is not prepared to be viewed. And then, if you need to deliver it at home, it has to be secure. So there's, a few challenges to address that never, in this situation, they hadn't thought before, because they didn't need to do that,
Right, that's right, because they were in the office, yeah.
They were in the office, yeah. So the situation is to be able to access those same samples, but instead of printing it on a printer and on the office, view it at home in PDF, it solves this situation, and it also solves the situation, as you said, not only for now but also for the future. And it helps them also thinking that maybe there are some processes that could be reviewed, so they are more digital, and they can do it from anywhere.
So I want to dig into that use case a little bit deeper. So they were printing out these documents. By the way, do you have a sense of these documents? This is a bank, so are these like account statements or information about a portfolio? Or
yeah, all the information that you receive as a customer on the post. If there's still many people who still want to have their extracts on paper, and these are printed in high volume printers in an outsourcer, and the bank sends that every month. And but then there are some tests to be done before this goes to this outsourcer to be printed. It needs to be printed at home, in the office, and check the quality is okay, everything is okay. Okay, we can send it now to all the customers.
Okay, yeah. And in that particular case, we're transforming the output, or the output was originally in a format to land on a printer. We're transforming that output to PDF, yeah?
Yeah, imagine these are core applications, the big core banking applications that give you all the extracts, all the information about your accounts. And these applications show the output in a different way, and is a way that is not prepared to be viewed. Is certain data streams, complex data streams from core applications that maybe are converted into some language that the printer understands, like PCL, for example. But you cannot view PCL. You need to do some transformation into something like portable, like a PDF, and that's what we do.
And I'm wondering for you all, where did the requirement to change come from? Was it an externally driven requirement, or is it something that really stemmed internally?
In my case, it was also an internal process, because in fact it's an internal quality check that they have to do internally before these documents go outside. But it's true that as you're saying, this makes a big question mark. It's like, okay, so those core applications that I thought, I could never access from home, it was a strange format, I could never view, it has to be printed into that printer. Then all of a sudden it's like, so they could be available somewhere else, so and then the brain, is doing some work, and we can help. I'm sure in the future in other also external processes.
Yeah, it sounds like there's some innovation, right, that they can capitalize on in the future once we get this behind us. Here in the States, it's one of the largest wholesale grocery distributors in the country. So they distribute, every day they have a fleet of trucks that are delivering goods to the largest grocers in the country. So you can imagine they're terribly busy. Well, this distributor received calls from the grocery market chains. So they received a call saying, please tell your drivers we no longer want any paper relating to the delivery, like the bills of lading, inventory, invoices, anything pertaining. We need you, the wholesale distributor, to deliver that to us electronically. So similar to the examples that you described and what Ava described earlier about transforming that output that's really destined to a printer, make that electronically available, and also support mobility, because now I have truck drivers on the road that still need access to that content. They need to know what their schedules are, what locations do I need to deliver next. Chris, you also have an interesting situation with a large insurance company based in the UK. Is that right?
Yeah, that's correct. So we received an urgent request in late March, basically seeking our immediate assistance. They had a specific centralized print process which required their employees to travel to several offices locations to initiate the printing. Now, this process, was to sort through printed output relating to broker statements, both internal and external. They had to place these documents in envelopes and send them to the mailroom for posting. And as you're aware, in this current situation, that contravenes the UK's government's work from home directive. So an immediate solution was needed by the executive management.
Okay, so here we got a corporate compliance concern, right, and a need to completely shift the way this particular organization operates for more electronic access. Did can you shed a little bit of light? Technically, was that another transformation process where we're actually going through it's not a digital transformation initiative, but it's a digital transformation process to fulfill here?
Absolutely. So within a few days, our team, we'd reviewed the existing way of working, and remotely we assisted when implemented, a new process design where effectively it was mainframe output, which was printed traditionally, was converted to PDF, on their open systems platform, and effectively automatically saving broker statements, documents to appropriate sort of system folders.
Yeah.
And then the key bit here was making them available for online viewing for both their brokers and employees using their client web-based portal. So we transformed a manual mail-based system into a digital portal, enabling 24/7 access.
Okay, that's a big shift. Do you anticipate that the client will continue this process hopefully very soon, post COVID-19?
They're going to maintain that process. I mean, it's had a massive impact because now effectively these brokers, internal, externals, can access their systems remotely, and more importantly, it's resulted in quite a bit of cost reduction because they're no longer posting or mailing anything, and effectively they've had a big reduction in efforts with their internal employees who facilitated these manual processes. So no, they're definitely going to maintain this new way of working.
So to put this in the form of a question, and I guess we'll pose this to the group, is where did the requirement to change come from? Was it an externally driven requirement, or is it something that really stemmed internally? How about you, Chris?
Yeah, it really was an internal driven thing to start off with. The coronavirus drove it basically, and it was a compliance thing. They couldn't have their employees traveling because it would breach and contravene, UK law, and exposing them. So effectively taken an old-fashioned process which they had it running for years and years and years, and to dynamically change that and digitize it and be able to effectively then enable their internal brokers and their external brokers to access these reports via their own portal. It's revolutionized the way in which they effectively go to market now with this type of document flow.
Yeah, actually, it bears the question, Chris. Since they're now delivering this content electronically, is it helping them to maintain the same level of compliance, or do you think that is there an opportunity to improve security and compliance?
I think they've improved compliance actually, because you would imagine in the manual process of effectively taking print that's printed and then having it placed in envelopes and then posted. Now it's very secure because effectively it's a system generated process, and effectively it winds up in a folder that only the appropriate broker can see. So it's improved their process, made it more secure, made it more efficient, and effectively the brokers, as soon as that report's available, it's there available in that portal. So it's a big step change for them.
I want to talk about the scenario that we discussed. There's a global energy service company based in, I think they're out of Singapore. Is that right?
That's correct. Yep.
Yeah. Can you tell us what's happening there?
Yeah, this is an existing customer of ours. It's a global environment. The Singapore logistics team reached out, and they've had ongoing projects that were in the digital transformation area, but still very heavy print in that environment today. And they have a key business process that involves multiple documents going into shipping process. And one of those documents is the customer invoice. And the process today is for the manager to then review the list, print out that customer invoice, and then sign it and affix a company stamp or chop, as they would say in Singapore. And so that is a manual process. There's also then somebody who has to gather up the different materials to make sure that it goes out in the proper form and order. And we were contacted because with the ongoing stay-at-home policies and multi-shifts, we were contacted to see what could we do to automate and make that signature process and stamp digital. And so that's where we were brought in. This is still an ongoing exercise, and we have a partner also in play there. So we're having those discussions. And I think that initially it was really tactical, what they were trying to do, and that was to try to assist not having to bring people in. And I think Chris mentioned, workforce, keep people having to visit the office to do something. So that was the original tactical intent, but it has broadened from there in terms of conversations.
Matt, your scenario reminds me of another situation that we're dealing with today. I want to ask you a follow-up question here in a moment. In this, here in the States, it's one of the largest wholesale grocery distributors in the country. So they distribute, every day they have a fleet of trucks that are delivering goods to the largest grocers in the country. So you can imagine they're terribly busy. Well, this distributor received calls from the grocery market chains. So they received a call saying, please tell your drivers we no longer want any paper relating to the delivery, like the bills of lading, inventory, invoices, anything pertaining. We need you, the wholesale distributor, to deliver that to us electronically. So similar to the examples that you described and what Ava described earlier about transforming that output that's really destined to a printer, make that electronically available, and also support mobility, because now I have truck drivers on the road that still need access to that content. They need to know what their schedules are, what locations do I need to deliver next. And so to put this in the form of a question, and I guess we'll pose this to the group, is in that particular case that I just described, that was a scenario that was really driven. It was a requirement that was driven by our client, the wholesale distributors, by their customers. So it was an external motivation to change. And I'm wondering for you all, where did the requirement to change come from? Was it an externally driven requirement, or is it something that really stemmed internally? Matt, maybe you could kick that off.
Yeah, I think the initial focus, I would say, is internal, right? Because they were trying to make this process, the manual process, become more automated and eliminate the need to have somebody physically sign a document and stamp it. I think that the fact that they're dealing with both internal customers and external customers in terms of shipments, they've already been discussing how this document now today, it's been transformed into a PDF. They're still printing it. That's downstream. So there's already been some discussions about how can they move that further into a digital transformation. And they're already kind of well on the way in terms of distribution, logistics, in terms of blockchain and all those digital transformation concepts. So I think we're moving in that direction. And that's where it's tactical to strategic. It's both internal today, but it's moving to external in the future.
Right. And Matt, I know you had told me about that large bank in Australia. Can you tell us a little bit about that? And was compliance, did compliance either play a role, or was it impacted in some way?
Yeah, it was. And the story is, I think, very similar to the stories we've been talking about in terms of we received a request, and it was an immediate, urgent request at the end of March. We responded to that with some back and forth questions and answers, and we're able to deliver the solution that they needed. It's an internal requirement. It is core business application, core banking, and what they have is an acknowledgement process. That document is sent to managers. Today it's printed in their offices. They're no longer in their offices, so they need to be able to send it via email. It's more secure, as Chris was saying. And then they can, meet that compliance requirement. But as well, of the other stories, once we started having interactions, the customer themselves identified additional applications requirements. One of the things they discovered along the way is some design elements that we had created previously fit very well into this go forward strategy. And so now they're looking at other applications that happen to reside on the mainframe and using that for secure printing and secure pull printing in their environment. So it's really broadened their view of what we can do, and it's really opened kind of the eyes of the customer in terms of what value we're providing.
Okay. Great, thanks. And again, another great example of extensibility, although, I mentioned at the onset of our discussion that there were commonalities. Rapid deployment in the case of this bank in Australia obviously is key, and it's true for all of these scenarios. I really want to thank everybody for taking the time to share your stories. Hopefully, we'll be looking back on this in the in the future, and we'll have this entire scenario behind us, and we can talk about more exciting ways that we're bringing innovation to our clients that have more positive impact. So thank you all very much for your time, and for those who are watching, I'd encourage you to reach out to us, just have a conversation to see how we might be able to assist you. Thank you all. Please stay safe, stay healthy, and I'll be looking forward to seeing you in person real soon.
Yeah, thanks again.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Cheers.
Bye.
Bye-bye.